thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your True Self. And today I have done a video where I've got my daughter, who is nearly 5, to pick some books at random off my shelf, which I've done once before. And I'm then going to talk about the books, whether I've read them or not. So I'll just go through them as she picks them. Okay, Fozy, choose me some books. That she picked, everybody's probably read already, so I won't talk about it very much, but that is Has Be Both by Ali Smith, and this one I have had signed by lovely Ali Smith. That was in March 2015. She tends to come to Norwich fairly regularly, so I've seen her talk 2 or 3 times now, and this book won, I think, oh gosh, what did it win? The Women's Prize, I can't remember what year, 2015 I guess. Has Be Both is set in 2 time periods, so one is in the Renaissance and one is in the modern day, and some of the books were published with the Renaissance section first and some of them were published with the modern day section first, and so you can obviously read it either way, and it's about art, and it's basically yeah, so it says 2 tales of love and injustice twist into a singular yarn where time gets timeless, structure gets playful, knowing gets mysterious, fiction gets real, and all life's givens get given a second chance. So it's quite a literary novel. It's not massively plot driven. I can't remember masses about it. I remember not being as blown away by it as other people were at the time. It's the only Ali Smith I've read, but I'd really like to read more because she's such a good speaker and such a fascinating, intelligent person. Okay. Thank you. The next one she picked was The Horse Whisperer by Nicholas Evans. So I've never read this, but I bought it after I watched the film and really loved the film. And so it's basically, from what I remember, about a girl called Grace who's from New York and high-flying career parents, and she has an accident on her horse, and the horse is called Pilgrim. And Pilgrim is really traumatized by the accident, and they go to work with a man called Tom. He lives in the mountains and he is a horse whisperer, and he tries to tame Pilgrim and get Grace back riding again. And it was a really beautiful film. It's quite old. I'd say it's a good 25 years old probably, but I really loved it, and so I bought the book and I am looking forward to reading it when I get to it. Point if you want a high one. Next one is a fairly recent find from a charity shop, which is the winner of the Orange Prize in 2003, and it's called Property by Valerie Martin. Quite a small book, and it's got a quote from Toni Morrison on the back, which is always a promising start. So it says, it's set in the Deep South in the early 19th century. There's the owner of a sugar plantation who is unhappily married, and she misses her family and longs for New Orleans. And there's a slave girl who has been given to her as a wedding present, and the slave girl has had a son with her husband. So it's basically about that situation as well as the wider situation of slavery. And I'm sure it's going to be really powerful and shocking and probably really quite distressing, but I think that it's really important to read about those kind of periods in history, even though they are really distressing, because it's important that we educate ourselves about them and don't let them become forgotten. The next one is one I haven't talked about for ages. This is called, hold on, I thought I had it signed, but actually I don't. This is called The Last Werewolf by Glen Duncan. So I've got the hardback edition, and it's got like a really lovely gold edging on the pages. This is quite old now. Let me see, 2013 maybe, 2011. I heard a lot about this on podcasts when it first came out, and I saw Glen Duncan talk at a literary festival, and he gave a reading from this. It's quite a raunchy book. So the blurb says, "One last full moon, then it will all be over. Jacob Marlowe has lost the will to live. For 200 years he has wandered the world, enslaved by his lunatic appetites and tormented by the memory of his first and most monstrous crime. Now the last of his kind, he knows he cannot go on. But as Jake counts down to suicide, a violent murder and an extraordinary meeting plunge him straight back into the desperate pursuit of life and love. Remember, there's a lot of sex in this book, and which is kind of weird because he's a werewolf. And it's quite literary from what I remember. And yeah, just really original. I haven't really read anything like it before. And so I really enjoyed it and I'd recommend it. And then the last one that she picked was a huge, great hardback, The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. So I've read Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, which I thought was fine, but I didn't love it. But I thought this one sounded really intriguing. I think it was a Radio 2 book club choice, and I heard about it then. And I love the cover, and it's very beautiful. It's a very big book. It sounds equally as sort of magical realism fantasy type book. So it says, I'm not going to hold it up because I'll obscure my whole face. One drowsy summer's day in 1984, a teenage runaway, Holly Sykes, encounters a strange woman who offers a small kindness in exchange for asylum. Decades will pass before Holly understands exactly what sort of asylum the woman was seeking. The Bone Clocks follows the twists and turns of Holly's life from a scarred adolescence in Gravesend to old age on Ireland's Atlantic coast as Europe's oil supply dries up. A life not so far out of the ordinary, yet punctuated by flashes of precognition, visits from people who emerge from thin air, and brief lapses in the laws of reality. For Holly Sykes, daughter, sister, mother, guardian, is also an unwitting player in a murderous feud played out in the shadows and margins of our world and may prove to be its decisive weapon. It says it's a metaphysical thriller meditating on mortality and our self-devouring times. So it sounds like, again, it's going to be kind of not an easy read, but hopefully worthwhile. I think I've just been put off because of the size. Have also got it on audiobook, so it might be one where I can do reading and listening, because the audiobook is like 29 hours or something. So maybe if I did a split between the two, that would work. Which one are you pointing at? Which colour?
Pink one.
That one? That one? The next one she picked was this one, Under the Tuscan Sun by Frances Mays. I absolutely loved this. I read this in probably 2 years ago after I'd watched the film. And this is a memoir. So Frances is American, and she, just from memory, I think she's just got divorced and she's gone to Tuscany with her... No, did she have a partner though? Maybe she hasn't got divorced. Can't remember. Anyway, she's gone to Tuscany on holiday and she drives past his house and she just wants to buy it. And she does buy it, and it's in a bit of a state of disrepair. And so it's her memoir of the restoration of the house and the system in Italy. And it's absolutely, this book has such an amazing sense of place, and it describes the house so well, and the area and the neighbours and the builders, and they're just she's written it so beautifully, and you can just visualise the food and the Tuscan scenery and the landscape. And there's some recipes in here interspersed somewhere, because she kind of learns to cook the Italian way. So she'll wake up, and when it's really early in the morning before it gets really hot, she'll go down to the local market and she'll buy enough food for the day, fresh food, and then she'll make, like, because the food is such like wonderful quality, if anyone's had food in Italy, you know just how gorgeous and fresh the ingredients are. She will then make the food for that day. And it's very simple recipes because the flavours are so gorgeous. You don't need to have overcomplicated recipes. So there's a lot about food and a lot about the weather and the sun and the just that Italian way of life. And I absolutely loved this book, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who's got an interest in Italy. It's just absolutely stunning.
Don't stand down the same road. Pink.
That one. Okay. The next one that she picked was Agatha Raisin and the Wellspring of Death, and she picked that because she could see the pink spine. I've got the first, 10 or so books in the Agatha Raisin series. I'd never heard of them, and then Simon from Savage Reads used to talk about them a lot as good books to get you out of a book slump or a book hangover. And they're very easy to read. They're basically like cosy crime. So Agatha Raisin is a PR agent from London who gives it all up and comes to live in the Cotswolds, and then these kind of murders and mysteries happen where she lives, and she sort of puts herself to the task of solving them. So they're very very easy reading. You can read them in like 1 or 2 days. And this one is, I haven't read this one yet. So what happens? The council chairman is murdered, and Agatha has to try and solve the crime, where she always sort of goes out of police jurisdiction and sort of gets there in the end. So that's just a nice easy read. That one? Yeah? Hold it up then. Okay, last one, thank you very much. Was The Legacy by Katherine Webb, and this has been on my TBR for many, many years. I haven't read this one. I saw it first on, there was a book club they used to do on Channel 4, which I can't remember the name of, and that this was one of their picks, and I liked the sound of it and I bought it. This says, in the depths of harsh winter, Beth and Erica Calcott returned to the house where they spent idyllic summers as children. As Erica sorts through her late grandmother's belongings, strange fragments of family history and vivid memories break the surface of the present day. Memories of their cousin Henry, who disappeared one summer long ago. Of their grandmother, a bitter woman full of a deep, dark hatred. As Erica sifts through remnants of the past, a secret emerges, reaching all the way back to a beautiful heiress in turn-of-the-century Oklahoma. As past and present day converge, Erica and Beth must come to terms with 2 terrible acts of betrayal and the heartbreaking legacy left behind. Sounds really good. I think, I've got a feeling I lent this to my mum and that she really liked it. So it looks like quite a good page turner, and as I said before, I like books where it goes from present day to past and then joins together. That is all the books that she picked off the shelf. Some old ones, some new ones, and some that I haven't read. So let me know if you like that format, and I will do it again at some point. I hope you're all having a wonderful, lovely Christmassy December, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.